Hi, I'm Orlando with On Point Custom Auto here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What we're going to help you out with today is we're going to show you how to remove the front bumper and the headlights on any 2008 to 2013 model Chevy Corvette. It's the same application for all of those years. You're only going to need a couple of tools. It should only take you half an hour to an hour depending on which of those tools you have with you, and it's not that hard. Save yourself some money and let's get this job done.
All right, here's what you're going to need to do the job. You need a 10mm socket, a 9/32 socket, an extension and a ratchet, a flathead, a Phillips, and a T15 hex bit. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up your hood. You're going to want to take your T15 hex bit and you're going to want to come along the fender, and you have 4 bolts that you want to remove. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. You don't want to remove all 5 of them because you don't want to mess up the alignment of the bumper. So you want to leave that last one in so that way you keep the right alignment. You want to remove these 4, and then you want to come over to that other side and you want to remove the exact same 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to leave that last one in. Once again, those are both T15 bolts, and you're going to pull those out so that way you can loosen the fender so that way you can get some play. The next step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over here to the front bumper. Right there in that area, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. That outer and that outer, those are both going to be your 9/32, and that inner right there are going to be Phillips head. So in order to take off all of the screws underneath the hood, once again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 T15 hex heads, and you have 2 9/32 bolts and 2 Phillips bolts. That's all that you need to take off the front end and detach it so that way you can remove the bumper on a Corvette. Your next step is going to be to come over to the front end. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. You can pull up that part of the bumper right there with like a very minimal amount of force. And once again, you pop both of those. And your next step is going to be to lower the hood. You cannot remove the front bumper without lowering the hood after releasing all of these bolts. All right, in review, we removed 4 T15 bolts from both fenders, and we removed 2 9/32 bolts and 2 Phillips screwdriver heads from the front bumper. That's all that needs to be done on the front end. You can go ahead and lower down the hood on the front end right here. If you haven't already, you can pop up the edges. Make sure that you don't try to do this until the hood is down, especially for the center part. You can pop up these corner edges just to give you some leverage, but don't pop this center edge up until you drop the hood, because you do not want to damage or scratch any paint that's going into the hood or the bumper area. Your next step is you're going to want to get the car lifted up. Corvettes are very hard to lift up, so on this model we're just going to lift up the front end. Once you have the Corvette lifted up, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start underneath the vehicle. There's a total of 13 bolts that need to be removed from underneath the vehicle. All right, now that you've got the Corvette lifted up, we're going to start with a 10mm socket, and you're going to come over to the bottom of the bumper, and the actual bottom of the bumper right here is held on by a 10mm bolt right here. And if you follow that bumper all the way over here, that same little line is held down by a 10mm bolt. Okay, so right here and right there, there's a 10mm bolt. After you take off that 10mm bolt, you're gonna start taking off that lip. That lip has 3 9/32 bolts. 1, 2, 3. And it has a plastic push pin that goes right there. Plastic push pin, 1, 2, 3. 3 9/32 bolts. 1, 2, 3. And a 10mm bolt. That's what we released so far with that push pin. After that, there are 2 more 9/32 bolts. 1 and where's the other one? 2 right there. So 1 and 2. And you're gonna release those 2 9/32 bolts, and that's gonna release this whole underside right here from the bumper. And you just pull it down like I did and make it a little loose. And this has already been released right here. Then if you come over to the front of the actual bumper right here, you've got 1 bolt there, another bolt right there, another bolt right there, and another bolt right there. All right, to review. On the top side, we had the hood open. We took off 4 T15 bolts from both sides of the fender. After that, we took off 2 Phillips and 2 9/32 bolts from the front of the bumper. We lowered the bumper, and then we pulled the front bumper clip up. We lifted the Corvette. Underneath the Corvette, there was a total of 3 9/32 bolts and a front clip, and that is what removed both of those lips. Then there was a 10mm bolt and 2 more 9/32 bolts that are holding on the air intake from both sides. After that, there's a remaining 5 bolts on that bottom bumper, 3 of which are 9/32, and those 2 outers that are there are Phillips heads. That is gonna remove the entire bottom bumper from the bottom skid plate and air intake setup. The next step is to go into either wheel well. All right, once you've removed all of the needed bolts from both fenders and the front bumper as well as the lower carriage, you're gonna come into the fender well. Once you come into either wheel well, you can start by removing the 4 9/32 bolts and a plastic pull pin right there. 1 plastic pull pin and 1, 2, 3, 4 9/32 bolts. That's what's gonna free the fender liner over. On the inside right here, you're gonna need to remove that amber corner marker so that way you can get to that 10mm bolt that's right there, and then also to that 10mm bolt right there, so that way you can remove the bumper from the fender totally. Let's show you how to get that done. You can literally just twist right there and get your hand in, and you want to pop the inside of the bumper out first, and then you want to get the next over here on the other side, and hold on to it when you're doing it because you don't want it to just pop out and shoot out. But that's pretty much it right there. And once you got it out, you're gonna go ahead and disconnect it. It's not that hard. You can literally just twist it out. Once you twist it out, it'll pop right out. Once you've removed that 194, it's easy to get to that bolt right there with your 10mm, and easy to get to that bolt. We've already loosened that bolt, so we're gonna go ahead and take it off with our hand. Once you've removed both of those 10mm bolts and the amber marker with those 4 9/32 bolts and that pull pin, the bumper literally falls right off. There's nothing that's gonna give it any force to pull off on either side. So then you're gonna come in on the other side. Same story, same setup. You're gonna turn the wheel. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 9/32 bolts and that plastic pull pin, and that's what's stopping you from pulling over on this side. You're gonna do the same thing. Stick your hand in, and you're gonna go ahead and remove that amber marker. Start with the inside and come to the outside. That's totally off right there, nice and quick. And you're gonna come to the inside once again, You've got that 10mm bolt right there, and then you've got that 10mm bolt right there. So there's only two 10mm bolts that are holding on the fender to the bumper. Once you've released those bolts, you're gonna go ahead and remove the front bumper. All right, so I loosened that first bolt and the second bolt, and literally once you loosen them, you can pop them off with your hand, and the bumper, like I told you, it literally falls right off. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some rags and throw some rags in that area, so that way when we fully remove the bumper, it won't damage any paint or scratch anything.
All right, let's review what we did so far. For starters, we opened up the hood. We took off 4 T15 bolts from both sides of the fender. After that, we took off 2 9/32 bolts and 2 Phillips head bolts that are holding on the top of the bumper. We wedged up both sides of the front bumper, and then we laid the hood down. We came underneath the vehicle, and in order to remove both lips that are on either side, there are 3 9/32 bolts, and there is a 10mm bolt and a pull tab. After you pull those 3 9/32, the 10 and the pull tab, there are 3 9/32, a 10mm, and a pull tab to remove the opposite side. That's going to remove the air induction and the lips from both ends. The last thing on the bottom side was for us to take off the 5 bolts that are holding the center area. There's 3 9/32 bolts, and there are 2 Phillips heads. After that, you're totally done on the bottom side. The bottom of the bumpers. The last step was to come into the fender well and remove the 4 9/32 bolts and the plastic clip, as well as remove the corner marker and the 2 10mm bolts that are holding on the bumper onto the fender. The last step is to actually remove the bumper. We're going to take a large microfiber rag, and we're going to place that in between the bumper and the hood when we actually finish pulling it off, so that way we don't damage anything. You're going to start on either end that you've already pulled up, and it should literally pop right off. All right, you've got your 2 clips that are holding on your fog lights, and that's the only thing. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to place the bumper off to the side. The bumper is completely removed. The next thing you have is a couple of more bolts that you need to take off to remove the headlight and the remaining fender bolts. Let's give you a close-up.
All right, once you've completely removed the bumper, you now have access to your headlight. There's one last T15 bolt that's holding on that front end of the fender to give you enough leverage to pop that headlight out on both sides. You can see that, it'll give you enough leverage. Underneath the headlight, there's a total of 3 10mm bolts that need to be removed. 1, 2, and 3. They're very easily accessible, and that's all you need to be able to remove the headlight. For the next step, I need both of my hands. All we're gonna do is hold up that fender with our left and push on the bottom of the headlight, so that way we can get those bolts out of their insertion spots.
All right, once you've removed the 3 10mm bolts from the bottom of the headlight and that T15, that's the remaining bolt that's holding on the front of the fender, you're literally just gonna stick your hand underneath the headlight. You're gonna pop it up. The back side first. The back side will be the hardest to dislodge, and the headlight will pop right out for you. There are 2 clips that you need to remove, one being your turn signal, and the other one being the actual pigtail for the Corvette itself. And we've removed one headlight. It's going to be the same setup for the other side.
You've got those 3 10mm bolts, and you've got that one T15, and then you pop the headlight up with the fender, and you're done.
All right, we're all finished up here. What we helped you out with today is we showed you how to remove the front bumper and headlights on a Chevy Corvette. It's the same application for any model that's 2008 to 2013. I'm Orlando, I'm with On Point Custom Auto here in Tulsa. We appreciate your views. Shoot us a message and let us know what you'd like to see us work on next. We hope this video helped you out, and we hope it saved you a couple of dollars. Until next time, God bless, guys.
On Point Custom Auto, 773-920-0538. On Point Custom Auto on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. This is a 2008 Chevy Corvette. It's been in the works. We've done tons of work on it. We put the Corvette Eagle Eye tail lights on it. We also tinted out all the markers. We set it up with custom headlights. We retrofitted them. They also do turn signal functions. Whenever you hit that turn signal, they'll go ahead and blink with the turn signal. You hit your unlock button, they roll with them. You can put them on a single color, red, blue, pink, whatever you like. Set it and forget it. We did a full build on this Corvette. It came in for starters for custom headlight build, turn signals. We put brand new wheels on it. We had the wheels wrapped. We went around on the backside and we put the Eagle Eye Corvette tail lights in there with the tinted out markers. It's an awesome look. We blacked out all of the corner markers, front and rear. Full blackout setup on it. And then we hooked it up with a paint correction and a ceramic coating. Hit us up, On Point Custom Auto on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, onpointcustomauto.com. This is something we can do for any year, make, and model, man. It's time to get lit the On Point way.